What's going on, everyone? I've been getting a lot of requests for wired content. So here you go. Here's another one. We just got our hands on the wired cruiser bike in burnt orange. Same great wired power, just more accessible framed design with the step-through design. Loving the burnt orange. Really cool look. Of course, 26x4 fat tires, suspension fork on the front, super bright headlight, BMX style bars, twist throttle, 7 speeds. There's your LCD 8H display, 60 volt battery, big long rear rack, taillight and brake light, of course, 2000 watt hub motor, tons of power out of this baby. And most of you know that I also have the wired Freedom in blue. Let's do a quick comparison. What's going on, everyone? Thanks for checking out this video. Wired Freedom, wired cruiser. Which one do you get? Well, let me give you some information, maybe help you make the choice. And I'm gonna break it up into a few categories, maybe help you digest the info a little bit better. Let's start with price. They're the same price. They're both $19.99, which is a heck of a deal, considering all you get, the power, the speed, the performance, the range, everything you get for that. There's not another bike at this price point that's probably matching that right now. Now you gotta pay shipping on top of that. So factor in another maybe $100 to $300 on top of that price, but still, it's kind of an unbeatable deal right now. Now the next thing I want to talk about is power. They have identical powertrains. It's the same 60 volt battery on each one, 20 amp hour capacity. That's like 1200 watt hours. That is a ton of battery capacity. They both use a 40 amp controller. Most other electric bikes are giving you between 22 and 25 amp on the controller, and that's just telling the bike how much power to send to the motor. So the higher amps on the controller, the more powerful it is. They have a ton of power. Goes back to the 2000 watt rear hub motor. It's a hang tie motor, the one that's reinforced with the steel gears inside to help manage the torque of these bikes, because they have a lot of torquey power off the line. So identical power systems on each of the bikes, no difference there. If you're looking for the speed and the power to keep up in car traffic, low speed car traffic, maybe 35 mile an hour or less, these would be great options for that. I weigh 180 pounds. I've had each bike to about 38 miles per hour on level ground. And if you're going downhill, you're gonna hit 40 plus. I've been, I think, 44 miles an hour on this bike on a downhill, or you just want that power to climb really steep hills. These have just, like I said, almost double the power of the 750 watt competitions out there. That's kind of the standout feature of the wired bikes, is just the power and performance of them. But I also want to mention that you don't have to have, like I have this one set up for just like a really hard hit off the line and everything is maxed out and it's a blast to ride. But maybe you don't want quite that much power, you can tone it down. I've got this one set up in a toned down mode. There's a couple settings in there that you can monkey with. One of them is a C5 setting. This one's set to 2, which gives it kind of a gradual off the line start with the throttle, which is pretty nice actually. It's still really strong pull and it's powerful, but it's not as jumpy off the line. This one I've got C5 set to 10, and it's a hard hit off the line. When you set the bike to 10 on that setting, you can actually lift the front wheel in the air if you're not watching what you're doing. I took a clip of the both side by side. This bike programmed with it to a 2 and programmed to a 10. So you can see the difference in takeoff speed between those settings. So you are able to tone down that throttle delivery, but you can also fine tune the pedal assist on the bikes as well. You go into setting C14, and you can set it to 1, 2, or 3. Each level is going to give you a little bit more power out of your pedal assist. So you can fine tune both throttle and pedal assist. And I did a whole complete video on how to program this exact display on this exact bike. If you're interested, check it out. The only other setting you might be interested in is just that top speed setting. I, of course, unlocked them to the max just to show the full potential, but unlock the bike at your own risk. I live in a place where there's a lot of residential neighborhoods that are separated by 45 mile an hour roads. So with these bikes, I can jump out onto that high speed road, and I've got enough speed and power that I can beat traffic as I scoot over into the next neighborhood really quickly. It helps me get around town a lot easier. You know, I don't ride these for a cycling workout. I'm not a cyclist. I ride them for pure fun. So having the power to go off-road and just throttle only around through the trails is a lot of fun. All right, the next big category we're going to talk about is the main difference between these bikes, the suspension. This is a step-through frame, no rear suspension, and this is the full suspension version. Let me give you some close-ups of what the frames look like. All right, we'll start with the Freedom bike, the full suspension bike. Here's the rear shock, 750-pound spring rate, I believe, on there. Beautiful blue frame, and you feel the suspension working. You know it's there. It's a comfy ride. Here is the cruiser frame style. The step-through, burnt orange, which is a really cool color. I love the burnt orange, the blue and orange. This is a great duo. I like this color combo, but no rear suspension here. Just the front suspension fork, but a lot easier to get on the bike. They both use a Mozo, I believe, on the front fork. So the forks are the same, but again, no rear suspension here. How much of a difference does that make? That's what you want me to answer. It makes a difference. You feel the difference when you go from riding this Freedom bike and you hop over onto the hardtail. You notice that there's no rear suspension. I mean, it's not a major deal. There's a lot of hardtail bikes out there, but it's a noticeable difference. You're gonna have to weigh in your mind what is more beneficial to you, having the comfort of the full suspension or having the ease of access of the step-through frame. It's a lot easier to get on, and that's important. You gotta feel comfortable on the bike. There are a few things that you could do to soften the ride on this cruiser. Number one, you could let just a little bit of air out of the tires. Don't keep them pumped up so high. I find the steering gets a little heavy if the tires are deflated too much. So I keep them at 15 PSI or greater, but that'll give you a little bit of help. Not a ton, just a little. What's gonna give you the most help suspension-wise is go out and get yourself a big, huge, wide, plush, spring-loaded seat. If you can get a good seat on there with the metal springs in the back that's really soft, that's gonna increase your ride quality a ton. I've had other hardtail bikes that had those type of seats on them and you don't even notice that it's a hardtail. The seat absorbs everything. That's gonna be your best case scenario for softening up the ride on this. Again, it's not a bad ride quality. It's just when you go from having springs under your seat to not having springs under your seat, you notice the difference. So getting a spring-loaded, soft, cushy seat is gonna help this out a lot. And I say that's the better option to do as opposed to a suspension seat post, because the suspension seat post is gonna add about 3 inches of seat height. That's my little toolkit hiding there. But when you put a suspension post in there, the seat gets 3 inches higher. That's a lot. On this orange cruiser bike, this minimum seat height is 34 inches. This one is actually a little shorter. The minimum seat height is 33.5. And that brings me to the next category that we gotta talk about, which is accessibility. How do you mount and dismount these bikes? How easy is it? Let me show you. All right, so let's start with this wired Freedom. Let me give you some quick dimensions. The minimum seat height is 33.5 inches. I'm gonna put it all the way down so you can see that. 33.5 inches. Standard height's about 30, 31-ish. And the bike weighs about 78 pounds before you put anything on it. So be a little bit heavier than that once you get a rear pack and other kinds of stuff on there, right? Now, I know my audience. I look at my YouTube analytics. I know more than 70% of the people that watch this channel are 40 years and older. So that group tends to have some flexibility, some mobility issues. And although you might be saying, okay, well, 33.5, I can get on that seat, no problem. That'll be easy for me. Hang on a second, because you're probably going to do exactly what I did, is you're going to put a rear pack on this rack. So you're not swinging your leg up over just 33. From the ground to the top of this is 38 inches. So can you swing your leg over 38 inches to get on the bike? Can you do that? A lot of people don't have the mobility in their hip to swing like that. I've watched on how many people get on this bike, my dad included, and they don't have the hip mobility to swing like that. So what they do is they grab both handlebars and then they lay out over it like Superman, and they swing their leg like that. And it's the same thing getting back off. They're hobbling over like this, trying to get off the bike. And they'd be much better served by getting the cruiser bike and using the step through. Minimum seat height on this one, 34 inches. Now the step through on it, you can't really get your foot through here. My shoes are too wide to go through there. So you got to come to about right here. And this is about 24 inches to get through the step through. But it's a lot easier to do this and step through the bike than it is to come around this rear rack and up and over and try to pivot on your knees and move your hips like that. So this is going to be a lot more accessible for a lot of people. I really think you should consider this one instead. just for the ease of getting off and on it, it's so much simpler to just step through it. You can get yourself situated, and the same thing when you get off. You don't have to Superman over the bike. You can just go right through it like that. You don't have to worry about getting up over whatever rear pack you're gonna put on this rack, because I know you're gonna put a rear pack on here, right? So think about that. Do you have the hip mobility to get over this pack? I'll do it one more time for you. And then this is 6 feet tall on the minimum seat height. I ride it just a little bit taller than this. I don't do the full leg extension thing. It's an e-bike. I don't have to pedal hard, so I don't do that. I just want, like most people, want to have my feet flat on the ground and just be comfortable at a stop like this. Definitely consider getting a step through just for the ease of getting off and on. You can pile as much stuff as you want on the rear rack now, because you can get off and on the bike super easy. So there you go. I've pled my case as to why I think more people should be going the cruiser route, my father included. He's been telling me lately that it's getting harder and harder to get off and on his 26x4 fat tire bike, and I keep telling him, you need to get a step through. Trust me, you're gonna like it a lot better. All right, well, there's some information on the bikes from Wired. Same price, same power, same battery. One of them's got a little bit softer ride, but one of them is a lot easier to get onto. Other than that, they're pretty much identical. The only other differences I found is this rack's a little bit longer and it's got different pedals on this one. Other than that, pretty much the same exact bike. So if I missed anything or you got a question, drop it in the comments section. I'll do my best to answer it. And I really encourage you to do your research. Make sure you get the right e-bike that's gonna work for you. If you do decide that one of the Wired bikes is for you, use my link below. That'll help me keep making great, informative e-bike videos for all of you. And I hope you found this informative today, or at least entertaining. If you did, consider hitting subscribe, coming back for more. Appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't mow this field here.